You're listening to a Pubhouse Network podcast for developers by developers.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Stackd podcast, episode number 78, recorded on September 5th, 2025. I think this may be like the third or fourth episode for the entire year. Woohoo! So thank you so much for joining us. This episode, we're just going to chat. I've got two of our wonderful co-hosts, and I'm actually going to mention Ian Lavitz first. Hi, Ian.
Hey guys, great to see you. Good to be back.
Great to have you.
I'm trying to remember the last time Ian was able to join us, and it's been a long time. It was last year, wasn't it?
I think I caught one podcast this year.
Oh, right, you did. You caught
early this year.
Came towards the end of it, right?
Yes. But yeah, it's been a while. I've been out of the loop, so I'm trying to get back into it. So I appreciate you guys having me back on the show. Been doing this for a long time, so glad to still be part of it with you guys for sure.
So very quickly, Ian, what have you been up to? I mean, obviously you can't fit everything in that you've done in the last 8 months and just
what haven't I been up to is more the question. Just been so busy. I'm sure you guys have. I'm sure most people in our field, if you're doing anything related to programming, you've been probably neck deep in AI content one way or another, either ramping up on it, learning how to use the different tools, working with the different technologies, MCP, and writing applications with it. Whatever you guys have been doing, things have changed a lot since last year, when I think we last couple of years we talked about coding assistants, and now things are full. For me, it's full on, pretty much AI development. When I'm not building AIs, but I'm working with AIs constantly to learn and to improve code, and to refactor code, fix bugs, and just some random different side projects that I have that it's been very helpful with, because man, oh man, the tools they've come so far. So things are good. Just keeping busy, trying to learn new skills. I just finished working on a little Go side project. So
cool.
I never used Go before, but now I have
Nice.
a few hundred lines of Go code that I can say I co-wrote, or at least I directed. And refactoring code base from TypeScript to Java, that was fun. I started a little experiment writing some TypeScript code and tried to write my own DI framework in TypeScript the way I thought it should work. And I realized, man, this is a lot of overhead for what's the benefit? Every time I started a coding session with an AI, of course, I had no idea about this, bespoke DI framework that I was using. So it had to kind of ramp up on it. And this is just a few months back, before context engineering started to get better. But where we were at that time is basically a blank slate every time you start coding, and you're stuck with whatever the LLM happened to know at the time when its training ended. But anyway, without going into too much detail, things are good, man. How have you guys been? What have you been up to? How's your projects going?
So Josh, welcome. I'll let Josh answer that first. So thanks for joining us, Josh.
Great to be here. It's good to talk to you after such a long while. It's been a few months. So things are going well. Of course, just like Ian, delving from one topic to the other, trying to keep up with things. And this time that we're in, I really do think it's impossible to keep up with everything. So you kind of have to choose a path and kind of stick to it. And so I did. I have stuck kind of to the Java-ish realm of AI. Been learning lots about Spring AI. I really like that. It's a pretty nice framework. And so that's kind of where I've been sticking with the AI stuff, and then trying to incorporate that into some of my projects here and there, doing things like that. But other than the AI and also just regular things, just trying to keep up with just the summer activities with the family and all that good stuff. So it's good to talk.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the summer went by really fast for us. I think about around August, I was like, wait a second, it's almost over because their school starts like in the middle of August. So
Yep.
or maybe it's like end of July, I realized. Anyways, but yeah, it was a good summer. That probably the highlight was we went on a trip with my daughter and some schoolmates to Iceland.
Wow.
It was her
Nice.
first overseas trip. So and I was very happy to tag along on all the
Yeah.
school trip stuff. So that was really cool. And Iceland is really fascinating. It's really small, so we saw power plants and stuff, and of course, it's just beautiful.
I've heard it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not really, how a lot of people are really big into particular shows or movies and like where they're filmed and stuff. I'm not one of those.
Wow.
But when I got there, I was like, wait a second. Like they actually filmed some Game of Thrones here. And I
Mm.
actually watched, I don't really watch a whole lot of TV, but I actually did watch all of Game of Thrones, except for the new one that I didn't pay attention to, but all of the original series. We were actually, there were like two spots we were at that were actually in the movie, I mean, in the shows. And I was like, whoa, this is where that scene was. And then we hiked in a glacier, and I'm like, this is the glacier from the movie. Of course, they were in a totally different part of the glacier, but it was the same one. Um, so yeah, so that was
Cool.
probably the highlight of the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, work-wise, a lot of the same stuff as you guys. I just try to do, I've a couple presentations I've done on AI coding tools. At few conferences, and I had one that I did for a while that was just about AI coding agents, and I went over all the different ones. But now that got crazy, so last one I did, I had one about AI coding assistants, excuse me, that talked about Copilot and like Tab 9 and stuff like that, and SourceGraph Cody, and now it's all about agents. So I had a presentation I did about agents. In the spring, but that was when they were still relatively new. So now, and I actually, I've been playing with a lot of different ones, but for the most part, I've been playing with JetBrains Junie because I got early access to it, and it's their AI coding agent, and their AI assistant is actually really good. I've been very happy with it. So I've actually been using that a lot, but I've also been using Amazon Q a lot. Because I've been doing some AWS CDK stuff for Speaker Tracks, my side project. And I'm not like, while I can do a decent amount of AWS stuff, and I'm certainly good from an architectural perspective. When it comes to nitty gritty, it's like all the VPCs and who has access to which thing and all that kind of stuff. Like it's nice to have the tool help you with that, and help you write the CDK code for it. And I'm writing all the CDK code in Java, which is fun. And even though I don't need to, a lot of people just use TypeScript, but I was like, yeah, let's do it in Java. What the hell? So that's been kind of fun. And still, no, I don't get to use all those tools for different clients. But I'm working on some legal stuff now, which is fun. And then also still doing migrations for companies, working with legacy stuff and rich faces and things like that. And we do still, even though I still think for modernization, I still think like having something like Open Rewrite is better. Because it's deterministic. It's very specific about the way it does stuff, but you can still use AI to write the recipes and stuff. Like it's just that when it runs, it does exactly the same way every single time and everything. Um, so yeah, that's what we've been working on. And I'm very thrilled to finally get back to this. It's been sort of a very busy and somewhat difficult last few months in different ways, personal ways as well. So it's good to get back to this. Yeah, so let's get started. So this episode, what we'll do is we've got some news items and some different topics, and we're just going to go through them and talk like we always do. Try not to talk for 2 hours. And of course, since the industry is very heavily, focused on AI, a lot of our topics for this episode are AI based. But actually, before we get into that, I actually thought of a news item that we didn't put on the list, guys. And that is layoffs at Oracle and Microsoft. So I don't have an article for those, but I'll put one in the show notes. Those have affected people that we know in the industry.
Yeah.
So, and from my perspective, what I've heard and from what I've read is that They're usually restructurings where they're actually eliminating positions. And some people that have been with those companies for like, 15, 20 years. And what they're saying is that, they're focusing on AI stuff. So they're eliminating other positions in other areas, which is fascinating to me because obviously you want to focus on growth areas, right? Any company's going to do that. These companies aren't particularly broke in terms of the amount of cash they have on hand. But I'm wondering if they're being a little short-sighted because the positions they're eliminating still, even though they may not be directly contributing to, new AI models or like, AI first engineering, there's still foundational aspects of what they're doing. So I was wondering what your take is on that.
So if I can jump in real quick, I know that this is a heavily AI topic discussion that we're going to have today, but in my opinion, there's a lot more to tech than AI. And unfortunately, it seems as though lots of the buzzword around AI, and it happens with lots of things. We can go back to, 7, 8 years ago when microservices were the big buzzword. Everybody dropped all of their monoliths and went to microservices. Now everybody is saying, all right, well, we can get rid of all this and we can do it all with AI. Well, I think there's a lot of promises out there and there's a lot of hope of what AI can do. But I think in a lot of cases, AI is not there yet. And I think you're correct, Kito, in that sometimes I think some of these decisions are short-sighted. Now, I don't know the full context of the situation there, why these people were let go of these certain positions. But if in the case these organizations are thinking that AI is going to be able to replace them, or they're going to be hiring people that know more about AI so that they can, focus more on that forward-thinking effort. I really, I can't see that I personally agree with that thinking because I don't think we're there yet with AI. And I also do think that there's a mindset and a level of knowledge out there in these companies already. These people could be probably trained easily to start doing some of these things, So I don't know. I think that this short-sightedness, I should say, is a kind of a failure point here, and it's unfortunate that I think we're seeing some of this happen.
Yeah.
I have a couple thoughts on. Sorry, go ahead, Kito.
Go ahead.
No, I just have a couple thoughts to add to this discussion. Like, on one hand, you got to take the layoffs with a grain of salt. If a company is pushing an AI product and they're not cutting staff, they're pushing a product that they're saying is going to be able to replace human labor with automated, cheaper labor, and they're not doing it. They're not dogfooding that. That's kind of a inconsistent, branding message, right? So I think some of it might have to do with that. Like the layoffs in the industry might have to do with companies that are trying to push AI. Like Microsoft's invested heavily in GitHub Copilot and in OpenAI, right? And they own GitHub and they own GitHub Copilot. So obviously they have stake in that technology becoming more useful. So on the one hand, it's like you gotta they make it's harsh, they see layoffs happen like that, especially experienced leaders, technology people, right? On the other hand, also like Bill Gates said recently that he thinks AI won't replace programmers for 100 years. And the main reason is that the creativity and the judgment that you need to write software requires, like, first of all, it's impossible to replace with an AI at this stage. Yep. And it takes a long time. It's like AI can write code for 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. You can repeat that day after day, but there's no, like, the judgment over time that a real human programmer brings to a project is irreplaceable, I think, right? You can't just autonomously let an AI go and work on your code for months at a time and expect to get, like, think of a video game, for example. It could take a team of 8 programmers 3 years to implement a video game, right? Like, do you think an AI can just sit there and just write that code in 6 months and then you've got a AAA video game title you can launch? Probably not, right? The other thing is, like, look at the companies that have laid off employees and what they've had to do after the fact. Like Duolingo is a cautionary tale because they said we're going to replace most of our staff with AI. They did it. Users pushed back. They realized it was a bad idea. They're trying to rehire people now. So
Interesting. I didn't hear about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say though, I don't think that all of the layoffs are specifically because they're trying to replace people. I think it's really more of a where do you put resources, right? It's like they're saying this is our growth area. We want to put our resources into this, like building extra data centers or building more capacity
Yeah.
or building new products that are AI focused, right? And then because of that, they're devoting resources that were in other areas. And the other thing is that um the oh god, what was I gonna say? Uh Resources in other areas. I totally forgot my train of thought. And I swear I've not been drinking. Uh hmm. Yeah, but I think it's really more about diverting resources. Oh yeah, I know what it was. The other thing is that this is actually it just occurred to me as we were talking, is that all of these, I mean, not all of them, but a lot of these AI products are actually losing money. Um, Especially anyone that has like their own models and in anything like ChatGPT or something like that. But I don't even know about if we look at like AWS with SageMaker and stuff like that, like are they really making money on that side of it? They might be because they're very good at nickel and diming people for everything. But like they may be also losing money in the AI stuff, so they're trying to keep their balance sheet in order. So might be part of it as well.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 6 months to 12 months.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind, guys, like, so AI, I mean, affects many industries, not just programming, software development, right? But in particular with software development, it does definitely have a role, and it's been, you could say, very helpful in helping developers write code faster, write more code. So what's going to happen with all this code that now is suddenly getting produced more quickly? Someone's got to maintain that and enhance it and develop it and debug it and so on. And so if you've, obviously you've worked with AI, so like how effective is AI at maintaining its own code or at producing maintainable code, right? We can talk about this more, but in my experience, it takes a tremendous effort to produce clean code with AI, right?
Yeah, it does.
Maintainable, well-architected, clean code. It writes throwaway code really well and really fast. With no constraints, it can spit out a lot of code. But if you're trying to build an application following best practices and principles, it's hard to keep the AI on track. You got to come up with a lot of different clever ways to do that, right?
And it's just a sort of a different job, right?
Yeah.
But
It's like pair programming, but with like a mechanical bull. Like it's got so much energy that the thing's going to go running off in all directions. You have to keep it on track, restrain it somehow.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to some topics here.
All right.
Who had the Gitpod one?
I put that one in there. This is just that Gitpod is now named ONA. It's moving beyond the IDE, it says, launching mission control for your personal team of autonomous SWA agents. Basically, Gitpod, it's like a browser-based IDE that provides you, lots of different functionality, quick and easy to spin up a sandbox and do things with Git repositories and whatnot. They've renamed this, and I think it seems to me like they've baked a lot into this new evolution of the product. Says that they're, without going too far into it, that they've sandboxed for high autonomy, and they allow you to work in parallel, professional editing and reviewing, and just trying to keep momentum everywhere moving forward. It's got some mission control architecture added into it. Different environments have been added into this tool, and it seems to me that this is something may be interesting to look at least for those who have to set up a repeatable environment, maybe for college, use, or even in a corporation where you want everyone to use the same setup. This could be something that would be interesting to try out.
Yeah, and also I noticed, like, I mean, part of their new mission is using agents, right? Because they recognize, they have this, isolated development environment. That's great for a software development agent, right? It can use that to build its code assist instead of your own machine. So to me, that reminds me a little bit of Devin. It's like Devin.ai, I think, which that's how they work. But obviously, I'm sure it's completely different. But the idea of having an agent go and do stuff in their own environment is the same. So yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on this. It's very interesting. And it kind of goes to what I think is going to happen is we're going to have several different vendors that have like the ability to have an agent that runs in its own environment and can look at your issues and create PRs for you that you'll then have to review and tell it how bad it is, which is what I've done with Devin. It's like, hey, fix this, but then it reads it and tries, and so it's the same as doing it in your IDE. It's just somewhere else. So
yeah. So it's basically like you're training it to filter and do what you want it to do.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. Next topic: Atlassian AI browser acquisition. Is this you as well, Josh?
It is, but I think you've mentioned it. That's what it is. They've acquired a new AI browser startup, and it's going to add some artificial intelligence powered web browser to the lineup. What do you think?
I'm sorry, Josh. What was the last thing you said? Yeah.
I said, what do you two think?
I have not heard of the browser they bought, which is, what is it? The browser company.
Yep.
Dia and Arc browsers. I have not heard of them. The only one I know, Perplexity has a browser, which I got recently, but I keep on forgetting to use it. I'm like, I installed it and I was like, I just remembered just now that I should use it. But I don't know because I guess I would have to know more about those browsers.
I was reading about it, Josh, and it sounds like they're interested. Like this company makes collaboration tools, web-based collaboration tools like whiteboards and that kind of thing. So I think they're looking at it from that point of view of adding new features to their tool set for development, collaboration, and that type of use case. So,
well,
that makes sense
to me is that I kind of feel like the fact that the rendering engine is open source and somewhat commoditized, even though it's like extremely complicated. I mean, it's like a total operating system, right? There's only like there's what, three? There's the Safari one, which I forgot the name of. There's obviously what's the Chrome one? Forgot the name of the Chrome one too.
WebKit?
Chromium.
Yeah.
WebKit is Safari, right.
Yeah, WebKit Safari, and then I think Firefox still has their own. Like, anyways, no one's gonna buy a new rendering engine. It's just not gonna happen. It's too much work. Unless you get AI to do it, I guess. But now, since the rendering engines are open source and like baked, and they're still adding more features, but like if all you have to do is basically wrap it with whatever you want, it gives you a lot of possibilities. And this is why like there are alternative browsers. Like I use Brave, which is Chromium, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. I use Atlassian stuff a lot. I don't know if I'll ever want to use a browser, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, and that's we were talking earlier about we're now basically backend engineers can create UIs, right, with AI. So, but the challenge is like, and I had this conversation a while back with someone about whether what's more complex, not backend or front end development, right? And if you think about the UI is still and probably as or more complex than the backend, I think in terms of the different technology stack that you and coding, paradigms you have to understand, and in order to be effective, not to put aside like UI UX principles, right? Just how to build a nice UI that users can appreciate, HMI stuff, human machine interface guidelines. But we're talking about like just implementing a UI, right, versus writing a web service on the back end. I think it's harder actually. I mean, and so yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It is like an operating system, right? The browser has become so complex. It handles even though most of the code's running on a single thread, right? There's a lot of asynchronous programming involved, like the XHR requests are asynchronous. They're happening in the background. You have to deal with a lot of that uh, type of paradigm of the reactive programming. For example, how do you respond when data becomes available? And with event source and WebSocket, now you have like persistent HTTP connections where you have even more dynamic interaction with the server and so on. But yeah, where it's like API, what is involved in API? Basically calling a database a lot of the time, right? And yeah, I mean, okay, Spring makes a lot of that easy for you already, um, but yeah, anyway, I don't want to get too carried away. There's a lot of things that can be
But
done.
I just thought I'd tie like how is I how is that related to the browser acquisition last
Well,
year?
because like if you think about what the browsers can do, right, is that now, like you were talking about the rendering engine, like, yeah, people are not going to write a new rendering engine. And this company came up with a novel kind of rendering engine that has additional capabilities that made them attractive to, Atlassian. So, but it just occurred to me that, like, yeah, the front end is really a complex, probably maybe the most complex layer now in the application um, stack, right? But
Getting okay, I see what you're saying.
it was a loose connection. It's not,
No,
just
but
thinking about rendering engines and
yes, I get it now though. So okay, cool. All right. Next topic, Jakarta EE 12. Enlighten.
Yeah. So with Jakarta EE 12, Jakarta EE is always on the move. We just got 11 fully released. I think it was the early summer, right, Kito? Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything has been released now. We're moving on to 12, and certainly the working groups have been moving along and starting discussions, and even I imagine starting some of the specifications for 12. And it looks like you can see the release plan on the jakartaee.github.io website. And it looks like the targeted release is going to be next summer. So June, July 2026 for this specific release. And Kito, do you have any insight as to what is planning to be part of 12?
I don't really. I was hoping
Yeah.
you would.
Yeah, I'm not really 100% certain what is going into 12 yet. I know that there have been lots of discussions about it. Um, that said, I'm not sure exactly what is going to be moving forward here. There's
Yeah.
some new possible specifications that they're talking about for 12 Jakarta config, which will be based on microprofile config, obviously a useful one to have. HTTP 1.0, I'm not sure exactly what that would entail. New specifications, Jakarta authorization could be possibly moving from platform now. Jakarta MVC 3.1, NoSQL 1.1, and Jakarta query would be a new specification.
Oh, okay.
So
That would be
a
interesting.
few, yeah, a few interesting. I think these are mostly discussions that are still in the works at this point, but some interesting ideas for sure. And of
Yeah.
course, it'll be, of course, targeted around Java 25.
Right, which would be fun. Yeah, I've been trying to play with 24 more lately. One of the things that I think also is worthwhile mentioning is that currently the Jakarta EE and microprofile working groups are, well, not the working groups themselves, but the projects are talking about how they might merge
Yep.
going forward. And I think that'll be good because it'll be a little more cohesive because microprofile, which is used for Java microservices like Quarkus or Helidon or even Wildfly, or Open Liberty, they are built on top of Jakarta E specs anyways. So it's kind of confusing to have both of them. So although it made a lot of sense a long time ago, I think sort of clarifying that picture will help. So we'll
Yeah,
see it
and
forward.
part of that discussion, Keto, I mean, how often, for me and you, I'm sure that we are always using both Jakarta EE and microprofile together. How often are they used separately? I'll be interested to hear about that,
That's
out
a
in
good
the
question. Yeah.
community, because if they are being used separately, it may make sense to keep them separate as working groups, but I really don't think that they're being used separately in that many cases.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's just off the top of my head, though. I don't really know. I've not done a demographic.
I think you're probably right. I mean, at least underneath there's, even if you aren't really using the specific Jakarta EE API, if you're using something somewhere, it's like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think you're probably right about that. All right, cool. So moving on, speaking of frameworks, one of the things I've been looking at is agents not from the not for building software, but for agents that you can build. Because I think a lot of the applications we write are going to end up being agents. And it's funny because agent to me is really just it's a way to have a workflow that's guided by LLMs. It's like an LLM guided workflow engine, essentially. So since I'm a Java guy, I'm always looking at how are things supported in the Java world. And there is a new project called Embabel, excuse me, which is an agent framework for the JVM. It's actually written in Kotlin, but you can use it for Kotlin or Java or any JVM language. And if I remember correctly, it is actually, let me see if I can find it for sure before I say this. Yes, Embabel software. This is where Freddie should cut this part out since I'm just kind of Googling. Embabel. Okay, Greg, now I can't find it. Huh. All right, we're definitely gonna have to get Freddie to cut this part out. This is actually, I'm pretty sure it's this is the Rod Johnson one, but I want to make sure before I say that out loud. And there's like no information. Okay, there we go. I'm not crazy. All right. Here's like, okay, so Freddie, you can stop cutting this out. I hope you really do, or else this will be a really funny recording. All right, so so Embabel it's an agent framework for Java, but it's actually was started by Rod Johnson, who was one of the co-creators of the Spring framework. So when I saw the initial announcement, I was like, okay, this is interesting because I can see where it's coming from. So there are, of course, many agent frameworks, and a lot of them are in Python. So Embabel is his take, and he's got a company behind it. I have not played with it, but I'm very curious, and I've been wanting to play with it for a while. So that's something to check out if you're interested in writing AI agents in Java. Also, you can do this. You can do AI agents also with LangChain4j as well. So I know they've added some support for writing agents, and also there's a Google Agent Developer Kit that has a Java version as well. So I've been looking at all three of those, and I think what we're going to see, looking from a standardization perspective, is probably in another year or two, we're going to be looking at, okay, what is the Java standard for writing agents? Because whether that's Jakarta EE or something else, maybe it probably shouldn't be, but it should integrate with Jakarta EE.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to be looking at that too. And maybe I'm too early for that because I haven't really worked with these closely enough to, compare and contrast or anything. But I'm really glad to see so much, energy around doing this in Java and not just Python. There's nothing wrong with writing in Python. But I think the key thing is that, most of this stuff doesn't need to be in Python. It can be in any language, pretty much. So unless you're actually building and training a model from scratch or doing some fine tuning, you can use pretty much any language.
Yeah, that's important.
Embabel, I'm sorry to cut you off, Josh. Say that again.
That's okay. I was just saying that's important because we don't want to be, pipelining everything to one language. You want it to be useful for everyone. So there's such a plethora of languages out there now. We don't want AI to be pipelined just to any major language. It would be great if it was usable throughout the whole,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly. If you've
ecosystem.
got, Java developers, you should be able to write AI apps.
Mhm.
If you've got TypeScript developers, you should be able to write AI apps. If you have
Everything.
Go developers, you should be able to do it without actually having to switch the stack. In some cases, it makes sense, but if it's part of the same application, you really shouldn't have to do that. So,
Right.
Anyway, so
Interesting. So what's the relation between Babel and something like Lang4j? Or
well,
LangChain4j, sorry.
LangChain for J, the initial version is Python. And I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about LangChain. Okay, so LangChain for J is the Java version, right, of the LangChain library. But that is more about the main LangChain for J is more about interacting with LLMs, right?
Right.
So how you can write RAG applications with them and stuff like that,
Yes.
right? They have some agent capabilities they've added, and I have no idea how mature they are compared to Imbabel. But I would suspect that the Imbabel stuff is comparable to their agent features.
Okay.
And then the underlying stuff for talking to LLMs, I think they might use Spring AI in Imbabel, but I'm not sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they use. And obviously, LangChain for J, for talking to LLMs, they're just going to use LangChain for J.
Right. Would you
Yep.
say it's like Babel's a more high level framework for doing agentic programming in Java versus LangChain4j is more
I
like
don't
a
know.
library? Okay.
Well, MML is going to be more about writing agents, right?
Okay.
So with LangChain for J, you can just write you can write an agent, right? But you could also just write code that talks to OpenAI or Claude AI or
Oh, I see. Yeah.
your machine or whatever, and write just a RAG application that parses it, puts it in a vector store, and then talks to LLMs. It doesn't have to be an agent. It could just be
Got it.
code that does some AI stuff with LMs.
Right. Okay.
MML is specifically about writing agents.
Got it. That sounds cool.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm very intrigued by that. And I think just having Rod, he's been quiet for a while. Having him post about it and stuff is good. I saw him touting the performance of it and things like that. So it's
Very
good.
nice.
All right, so let's move on to tools. I have one tool here, which I have not looked at, but I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on it. So, and I'm actually going to share my screen here because I always forget that I can share for the 5 of you that watch us on YouTube. You can see this. Okay, so now I'm sharing my screen. All right, so this is Pinocchio. And it's like a browser that lets you install, run, and manage any server application locally. And I don't remember where I ran across it. I think maybe someone must have mentioned it to me, but I'm very intrigued by it. I need to actually play with it. And perhaps the deal is that each of these little apps are sandboxed in some way. But there's like open audio, face fusion, interleading face manipulation platform. Dia is a speech model, stable audio, that makes sense. CustomNet, a unified encoder-based framework for object customization and text-to-image diffusion models. So I think the idea is that you install Pinocchio, and then you can just install these apps on top of it and then play with them. PhotoMaker, customizing realistic human photos via Stackd embedding. So yeah, I've been meaning to play with this one. I can't tell you much about it, but if you want to play with some kind of cool AI tool, you can check out Pinocchio.
Separate, right? Tools are tools. So I have a tool that I'd like to share with, like, discuss with you guys. So it's Graphite. I don't know if you've ever worked with this tool, graphite.dev. It's like a front end for GitHub in a way, like a alternate UI for GitHub that supports stack PRs, among other things. It has a merge queue. It has AI features obviously built in, like they can help you. They call it it was called Diamond, I think, last time I tried it. And it's can do things like analyze your build logs and suggest why your particular job failed in your build. It can do like interact with you on your PRs. But what's really cool about Graphite I found was the stacked PR concept, and that's the first time I encountered that in a workflow where you take like picture you have a dev team and they're working on you want to break down the stories or the work into small units, right? So they can complete it quickly, which is a goal of Scrum, right? And Agile is to break down work, groom work or stories down to a small size where you can pick them up, implement them within a sprint. So the result of that is like you end up with these small fragments of work, right? Like these small deltas that developers are pushing back to the repo, and it takes time. You want to take your time as a reviewer to review the code and make sure it's sound. And if there's feedback, you add your comments. You can do this all through the Graphite UI. And then developers react to the comments and they fix the issues. So meantime, like you don't want to hold if there's one pull request that needs more time to fix something, you don't want to stop that developer from working on the next piece of next piece of work, next story or next requirement. So instead of them, but they might have have changes in that first pull request that they need for the next pull request, which is often the case I found. So instead of just creating a separate, starting over from like branch off of main and then create a new pull request, branch off of main, create a new pull request, you can create stacked PRs. So basically you take your first pull request, create a branch from it, you create a new pull request for your next feature, creating a new branch from the previous branch, and you just keep stacking branches one after the other on top of the previous branch. So this way, as your previous work is getting reviewed and merged, you can still keep building on that work. And if something changes in a down stack branch, they call it, okay, up stack and down stack. So if something changes on one of the down stack branches, you can just restack all the other branches, or basically rebase everything on top of the previous branch, right? So you'll get those changes. They'll cascade through the whole stack of PR, the whole set of stacked PRs. And it's a really fun way to work because you don't have to wait until a pull request gets merged before you start development on a new feature. You can just keep going and build on top of your past work in a separate branch. So it's isolated from the previous branch and from the next branch. And what's really cool is instead of doing, like, I don't know about you guys, but to merge or to rebase, right? It's a big decision for development teams. Do we want to do rebasing? Do we want to do merging? If you ever had to interactively rebase a lot of commits onto your branch onto another branch and have to interactively rebase to resolve a lot of conflicts, you know how painful that is, right? It's not a pleasant experience that developers want to repeat. Yeah. So, but this approach, Stack PR, solves that problem because instead of within your PR branch, you're not committing, you're amending the commit. So there's a single commit per PR. So it's like you amend, you commit and push, but each time it's an amend. So at the end of the day, you just produce one commit for your PR. And that's really easy to merge or to rebase onto, or once it's merged back into the main branch, you can rebase onto main and you're only dealing with one commit per PR. So
I think that's kind of cool, but I do kind of like granular commits though. Like,
you get those too because you squash. Like you can still do individual commits and then squash them after when the PR gets merged, it gets squashed and then it gets rebased onto main as a single commit, right? And that way for other developers, they only see it as a single commit. But during your development, if you want to separate the work into smaller PRs, smaller commits, you can definitely do that. That's not a bad practice actually, in case you want to roll back some of your own changes. But
I kind of like to do it after each little unit of work.
Yeah. No, you can, and that's where the PR merging involves like squashing the commits and then creating. It has this cool concept where we'll go and create like the merge queue, right? So if there's like 3 or 4 PRs waiting to be merged, it will go and it can take them all at the same time and go and try and create a merge, like create a new branch, combine those 4 commits, those 4 PRs together into that branch, and run it through your CI/CD pipeline and see if it's passing, right? And if it's passing, it will automatically merge it to main, right? Otherwise, it will reject it. It will kick it back into the queue, right? Or kick it out of the queue. and back into the inbox. There's an inbox view. So I just really like this interface. It's just a thin layer on top of GitHub basically. But with the Stack PR approach, I found for me is really great because it just unblocks you from like your day-to-day development. Even if you're just solo developing on a hobby project, you can quickly like create, work on one feature after another, after another, after another, and you don't have to worry about like the merging aspect too much because you can eventually everything will get merged, but it kind of decouples the whole merging from the development process in a nice way where if things get merged, you can keep in sync with the main branch and with work in progress without freezing the development. So anyway,
Pretty awesome.
Graphite.
I can think of actually a scenario where we could have used this on a project recently because we we do a lot of these migrations, right? So we're migrating from rich faces to prime faces, surprisingly enough, but also doing a lot of UI redesign as well. So a lot of CSS changes. Sorry, guys, I'm on a wobble board, so I'm moving around here. So often what would happen, and my colleague Bake was doing a lot of these, is he'd have one change, like migrating something, and then have like some CSS changes, and then he would basically have several PRs that were dependent. And then they wanted to merge them in batches so that they could test them on the master branch in a batch as opposed to one at a time, but they didn't want to have like 20 at once. And there's all this work in managing the PRs that were dependent on each other. You have to say, okay, this PR is dependent on that one, which is dependent on that one. And then he actually wrote a script to upmerge whenever there's a change like in the master across all of the stack of PRs. And this would have saved a ton of time.
Oh yeah. No,
Exactly.
it's great. My only wish is that it supported IntelliJ family of tools because it currently only the UI it's a CLI command line interface that works great. You can do all the stuff from the command line, but my only wish is that they supported IntelliJ. I even asked them on their GitHub channel or their Slack channel if they're planning to support it, and they said hopefully in the future. But because then to have it in your IDE, the interface, if you like a graphical interface for what you just described, it works with any of the VS Code variants, right? Including Cursor, Windsurf, all those AI tools. So Void is my preferred one for that family of tools. But basically, it has a really nice graphical UI where you can see all your stack PRs. You can restack stuff. You can go, wow, main is way up to date. I'm going to just restack onto main and just continue from there. And you can move your work around as you need it. You can flip the order of two different PRs within the stack and say it makes more sense to go here or go there. As you need to, you can fold branches together into two branches or more into one branch. Like basically flatten them, squash them in development time. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. But yeah, the restacking is great because it's almost automatic. Like as soon as you synchronize with main, with upstream, you get like whatever changes are coming in, whether to your own branch or to the main branch, because everything is stacked onto main to begin with, right? You create your branch off of main. So from there, you might create 5, 10 different stack PRs. Meanwhile, if main gets updated, it just restacks and it does it like automatically for you. It rebases the whole thing and it works great. If there's an error, like a merge conflict, it stops and it tells you, but at that point, you're just dealing with usually one commit rebase, right? Conflict. So it's really easy to manage like at that stage.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a cool tool.
Yeah, definitely check that out. Graphite.dev. Very cool. All right, let's see what do we have next here. Web4j, who's that?
I just put this in here, and the reason I put it in here is because I saw it on LinkedIn this week. I don't know how long this project has been out, but I kind of put it in here because we were talking about the ability to, how complex the front end development actually is. And Web4j aims to do it all in Java. You write it in Java and you run it on the web. So basically, this framework enables you to develop your Java application, and then you can just automatically convert it into a web application. And it's not using WebStart or anything like that. This is, I think it's doing in behind the scenes, creating a scaffolding around it, and actually making it into a web application. But I'm not 100% certain how it does that. But I just wanted to mention it since we were talking about the UIs.
Yeah. Huh. Cool. That's I feel like I've seen this before, but I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Okay. All right. So now we've got the AI topic here. And the first one we have is, oh yeah, this is intriguing. I'll share my screen again for the 5 of you that are watching. All right. So, so I'm always looking at all these random AI tools. And I was using one product, and I honestly forgot what. I think it was like an AI, one of these random AI image generators. Um, and it said, check out w.ai. I'm like, all right, what's that? Basically, the idea is that you can use your computer to be part of like an AI compute cluster, and you can get paid for it apparently. And this is funny because this is something I've been thinking for a while, is that we've got a ton of idle processing power sitting around. Any of us that have been around for a while have collected all these devices, whether it's phones or old PCs or whatever, um, and they're just sitting around. So I have not tried this, but it's w.ai. And basically, they say the way it works is you download and install it, you connect and start earning, and then you track your rewards. So another sketchy thing, you install some random software in your machine, and then who knows what it's doing. But theoretically, it's part of some safe.
Kito, should we be worried about you, man?
I have not tried
anything on your computer. It's like,
hey, what you can do, you can put it in a VM.
No, it's true. You're right. You're right. That's not a bad idea, man. Why not? It's a good point, though. I mean, you have a ton of computing power just sitting idle. If we could monetize it, like, man.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know if this is how their AI stuff works or at all, but it's a novel idea, and I think it is actually, if it's done in a safe and ethical way, a good way to make use of idle resources.
Absolutely. I mean, like, people, think about like Bitcoin mining viruses that are constantly trying to do this. But hey, if they're willing to pay you to use your computing power, and like, yeah, okay, fine, you can mine Bitcoin on my phone while I sleep or something, like.
Right, yeah, hey, whatever.
No, but hey, there could be. Isn't there a project like that? Except it was used for they were doing medical research. They wanted to like crunch data or something, and they were looking for CPU time basically, and you could share your machine with that. I thought a few years back there was some kind of
I wouldn't be
similar
surprised.
project.
Yeah. All right. So you want to talk about Spring AI, Josh? Is that you?
Yeah, I think we mentioned this in the last
Yeah.
recording and whatnot, but I just wanted to mention it again. It's a really good framework. I'll put it to get started with AI, doing lots of deep AI technique and developing applications that you're able to, create chat bots or document summarizers or, basically anything at a high level that you would want to do with AI. They've got some kind of a solution for it in the Spring AI framework, excuse me. And not just this web page that you're showing, the Spring framework web page, but there have been some individuals in the Spring community that have put together some GitHub repositories that have lots of Spring AI projects and demos and different things you can do with it. Really powerful stuff. So this is kind of where I've been spending a lot of my time with AI, particularly looking at Spring AI and all that you can do with it. Because one thing it does very nicely is it keeps you out of the low, deep, uh, in-depth coding you have to do in order to get lots of the functionality out of the LLM and out of the AI. Keeps you at a high level, and you can continue developing your Java applications and still interact with AI at the same level as someone who is using something like LangChain for J to go deep down into the AI and do the same exact stuff. So it's definitely something to take a look at.
Yeah, and I think
Question. Go
uh,
ahead, Kito.
I was just going to say, I think also what it does is it builds upon Spring's strength of sort of interoperating with lots of different other technologies. So
Indeed.
when I look at the list of vector database providers, which are often used for embeddings for RAG and stuff like that, it's got Cassandra, Cosmos, Azure, Vector Search, excuse me, Chroma, Elasticsearch, Gemfire. It's like every single vector provider you can think of.
Hmm.
That's
Like
cool.
like a Spring thing, you know.
Yeah, no, this is great. I mean, I'm working on a agentic type of tool that AI integrated, but I use LangChain for J and Redis for vector search, and then I was using the OpenAI interface directly. I tried using Anthropic for a bit, and then I switched back to OpenAI. Then I learned about. I don't know if you guys heard about like the New York Times lawsuit with OpenAI. They
Mm.
they're they're suing them for copyright infringement or something like that. So basically,
Mm.
there's a court case going on. So OpenAI had to freeze, like they can't delete anything right now because for the court order, right? They're not allowed to delete data. So I was like thinking to myself, man, everybody's chat GPT sessions, every API interaction with OpenAI right now is getting, archived permanently, for lawyers and to analyze. So I was
Yep.
thinking, I don't know if it's just a hobby thing, but I still, the principle, I like to be able to delete my data, if I
Yep.
want to. So I switched it over to Microsoft Azure hosted a OpenAI, which doesn't have that legal, obligation. So, but yeah, I'm really curious to know like and obviously I'm using Spring Boot to help me with some of the the scaffolding of the project and just helping with the overall setup and the packaging deployment and the runtime, like obviously for the microservice style of deployment with the embedded Tomcat and so on. But I'm
Yeah.
curious to know, like, does the like we were just talking a minute ago about Embabel, right? And there's LangChain for J and there's Spring. So Spring AI, right? How does that relate to the other tool that we were just looking at, the agentic one with like Embabel? Would this be a more low level? You were saying Kito, you think maybe Embabel uses Spring AI under the hood?
Right. To me, this is more like LangChain for J. Like it's conceptually, I think, similar, but obviously integrates with all of the Spring stuff, right? So you get observability out of the box, right? And all their data stuff and the whole Spring ecosystem.
Nice.
So but I think this is more like LangChain for J. It's like they could have wrapped LangChain for J.
I see. I see. Yeah, yeah.
So
This is great.
my
Such a
understanding. So so cool.
Yep.
All right, moving along.
Yeah, Anthropic Claude. Like this is one I wanted to add this here. This is one of my favorite AI tools right now. Just even though the interface I find is very clunky, like sometimes you're trying to interact with it while it's doing its work. It's kind of slow to respond, but the output is just has been the best that I've seen. Like from right, it happened right now as we speak. There's a service outage. Like these guys are dealing with such high volume of traffic. So all those things aside, I still think it's a great tool. Like it really, I tried Gemini, I tried OpenAI, I tried obviously you have Chat or like ChatGPT. Actually, I did try that for a bit for coding. GitHub Copilot as well, obviously, but this is the one I find is from the agentic point of view is really nice to work with. Like it's not as opinionated as ChatGPT, for example, which will like give you, strong advice about the right way to do something, like, and give you like really opinionated kind of perspective on how to implement something. Like, no, that's not the right way. This is a much better way for your use case, etc. But Claude is more very cooperative, obsequious though. Unfortunately, that like you tell it like you just told me I'm saying a lot of negative things here about this tool, but it's because how much I love it actually. But it's saying like it will tell you the unit tests are passing, and I just double check and it's like yeah, it passed because you didn't do a clean build, and there's compilation errors in one of the dependent projects that you're not dealing with. It's still building because you like the cached the code is still running, but so then I tell it like wait a minute, there's a compilation error. Try running Maven clean from the root, of the project, and it goes, oh, you're absolutely right. There's a compilation error. So it's like you're always absolutely right with Cloud Code. You're never wrong. It's always like you are absolutely right. But all those things aside, right? I still think this thing is a great. Yeah, it even tells you right here, unopinionated. Okay, it's a really great tool. It's actually the one I've spent the most time with in terms of development. And one of the things I like about it is like there's a lot of things I like about it, but one of the things I really like about it is the context engineering side, okay? Which is like we used to call it prompt engineering. It's like funny to say we used to do something that only stopped being in fashion like 3 weeks ago. But basically prompt engineering originally was like how based on my Reddit kind of community experience, like in the different Reddit channels for AI stuff. Prompt engineering was like, yeah, how do we formulate the prompt that we send to the LLM so that it gives us the best output? But then it becomes more about context engineering because over time those prompts accumulate, right? And you have a limited context window. So anyway, if you scroll down a little bit, it shows you some tips and tricks, like the Claude.md file, for example, right? This is where it can generate it for you, right? So you start a new project, you fire up your Claude Code uh, uh, terminal interface, right, through your IDE or through like a shell or whatever, shell command shell you use. Like I use iTurn 2 on Mac, and you open a directory and you type Claude. It boots up its interactive shell, and then you type slash in it. It goes and it just studies everything in that directory. It'll look at all your code, all your documentation, all your configuration files, whatever's in there, and then writes its own markdown file for itself. It says this repo contains Java code for a shopping cart application. I don't know whatever it is, right? And then you can over time keep adding to this file. You can tell it your memory. You say like always remember, don't commit code. That's my job. Or remember, always run the lint before you commit. And it'll forget. Like those are prompts. Like it's not going to remember all that stuff. But to make it, like you said earlier, Kito, like you're talking about determinism or deterministic tools, which is like it runs the same way every time. AI tools like this one are not non-deterministic. So, you and I could both give it the same input and it might produce two different outputs, right?
Right.
So to introduce determinism in the workflow, it has this thing called hooks. So after it edits a file, you can have it run a hook, and you can say like, run the lint after you touch .java, basically. And maybe like you might use like Spotless or some other tool to clean your Java code. So it has hooks where it can run a script before and after it does, edits a file or completes a task, right? So anyway, yeah, a lot of interesting approaches to the context engineering. This document has a few guidelines for how to get the most value out of Claude. But yeah, I found this tool was really the one I like to use the most. I like the quality of what it produces. The output is good, so that's what I like.
Funny because I when I talk to people, I keep on hearing people mention Cloud Code, and it's probably one of the few I haven't tried yet. So I think I'm gonna, because you have to actually buy it, and I already
Right.
have too many of these tools that I'm paying like whatever little monthly fee.
Yeah, no, it's true.
But I think I'll add this one.
One way to get your feet wet with this tool without committing to it right away is using something like Cursor, for example. Cursor.io. No, so
I've been meaning to play with that one too. I've heard a lot about it.
Cursor.com. No, yeah, it's Cursor. So, but yeah, Cursor has like basically these two IDE tools like Windsurf, Cursor, and Void is another one. They wrap the LLMs with their own UI, their own IDE interface, right? And they kind of switch between the various models as needed, depending on the type of task you give it, and sometimes it's behind the scenes you don't know which model it's using because it's optimizing it for cost. You can switch out of that like auto mode into I want to use Claude, Sonnet 4 only, or Claude
actually,
phone.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like I haven't used the VS Code variants as much lately. It's like for whatever reason, I like VS Code. I've used it a lot, but I've just been staying in JetBrains world, but like still, it's the same thing. Like all the plugins I use, you can swap the model.
Oh, nice. The model. Yeah, yeah. I was using like the JetBrains AI feature for a while, and I tried I think you used the Junie a little bit, right? Kito, is
Mm.
that your preferred tool or?
I don't know if it's my preferred. It's just one I played with the most.
Okay,
I
okay.
guess it's technically my preferred, but it's not like I'm in love with it. But I like it. Like in general, I get a good
Yep.
result.
I like the idea of JetBrains producing an AI native AI tool for their IDE. Like that's where this tool like Claude, the thing is like the IDE integration is very limited. Even though they have a JetBrains plugin, all it does is it puts a little button on your toolbar. You click it, it opens the command shell, and it
Oh,
calls types .claude, and it starts a Claude session for you, right? But in terms of interacting with the IDE, it's not clicking on buttons for you. It's not doing anything like that. It's generating the code, and eventually the IDE detects that there's code changes, and then it refreshes it. But
yeah,
uh,
it's interesting because even when it it'll run tests and stuff for you to verify its results, and it's cool because it actually runs it using the test runner in IntelliJ or whatever
nice, yeah,
you're
that's what I'm
using.
talking about. Like that would be
Which
awesome.
is kind of neat. Now, granted, it's kind of annoying if you want to do anything whilst doing it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you
But
don't
it's
want to
kind
get
of
in the
neat
way.
to sort of do
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Speaking
And I
of
think
that,
it's that
sorry,
I
go ahead.
think sometimes when it's trying to determine if there's errors, I think it may be plugging into IntelliJ's understanding of things. Um,
Right.
but yeah, so it's been kind of interesting.
That's
But I
cool.
think the Junie is more like what you're talking about, where I think it can pick different models. But I think I told it because Claude Sonnet seems to always be the best, right?
Yeah.
So I think I told it to focus on that one.
Yeah, it's great. I was using like the
Yeah, fun stuff.
OpenAI.
And I definitely I'm gonna check out Cloud Code now, especially
Okay,
since my Devon spin has gone down. So
cool.
um, all
But yeah,
right, so
speaking of AI,
we're
I
running
had
low
a.
on time here.
Oh, okay, okay. Yep.
So I've talked about Junie a decent amount. It's part of the JetBrains AI assistant stuff. So if you get there, so there's a free tier, and then there's you can pay for more. But yeah, it integrates with your IDE. And if you like JetBrains stuff, you can. It's actually a good way to sort of understand how AI coding agents work, and it has a very nice like it tells you exactly all the steps it's doing when it does things, and tells you when it something didn't work and it tries a different approach, and it'll even like write tests and then delete stuff afterwards, and it's been pretty good. And it's only one time I did do something really stupid, where I told it to fix the test, and the
I
way
love
no
that.
I've to fix something, yeah, to failing test, and the way it fixed it was to comment out the
Yeah,
code that was causing
of
the problem.
course, of course.
So now whenever I tell it to fix the test, I have to say, do not do not change the existing code or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. The shortcuts and workarounds and back
Oh, I
and
think I lost you again. I think
callbacks.
my speakers are just not working here.
Yeah, Kent Beck talks about that as well in the podcast recording that we linked to in the notes here, where he's talking about TDD and development skills and AI. It's a really interesting podcast from a couple of weeks back, and highly recommend that you guys listen to it. But he talks about the importance of TDD, Pragmatic Engineer blog
Mhm.
podcast. But yeah, he talks about the importance of TDD and the speed of TDD. He says like around hundreds of tests in a few hundred milliseconds, and that's how it has to be. You have to be able to write your test fast. And he talks about that same issue, like where the AI will just, oh yeah, I'll make the test pass. I'll just change the conditions of the test or comment out the assertion, and now it's passing. Right? You have to be on on your guard with that. And for that, I like to use this tool called Arch Unit. It's
Oh
Java
yeah.
architecture unit testing framework, so you can tell it like don't do this, don't do that, like keep it on track in terms of like don't use system.out, things like that, but you can enforce it at compile time. It's not just a linting
A good
tool.
idea, because also that means it doesn't have to be one of the sort of system prompts that you use that it may forget. So it's
Yeah.
a deterministic way to.
Exactly, Kito. Deterministic way to keep your code clean, right? And following your architecture guidelines. The last thing about Kent Beck's interview, I thought really liked to talk about development skills. He said, like, some of my skills have dropped to zero, but some of them have multiplied by, value is multiplied by 100. So it's really interesting the landscape today. We're talking about like the layoffs and stuff, and that sucks. And at the same time, like our industry is changing, right? Like the role of a programmer, software developer is changing, and like what skills will be in demand, right? After AI, right? And so yeah, junior coders are getting discouraged because they're starting out, they're trying to find jobs, and nobody's hiring. But I think it's just a timing thing. There will be so much more software to maintain and develop in the future that it's like definitely stay with it, guys. If you're getting into coding, stay with it. It's a great field. The creator of Ruby on Rails is talking about that recently, how much he enjoys coding, the joy of coding, right? It's like you use the metaphor of playing a guitar, right? That you can you learn by doing. You learn through the physical act of writing code, or typing in the code, and that AI takes that away from us a little bit, and that's something he really misses about writing code. And with AI, it's kind of your skills can get weaker as it were. Like you can lose your coding skills. So he wants to keep his skills sharp by continuing to write the code. He'll use AI, but in a separate window. He doesn't let it touch his code. He'll copy paste it if he decides he wants to keep it, but he still prefers to write the code. But
Interesting.
the last thing was,
Yep, that's good.
yeah. The other thing is, like, you guys heard the expression, right? 10 times engineer, right? Like somebody in theory who can write 10 times more code or faster code or better code than his colleagues. So one thing to watch out for with the AI I found is that like there's this other expression now is like AI can take a 10 times engineer and make him or her a 1,000 times engineer, but it can also take a 1 times engineer and make it a 0.1 times engineer. So it can actually make you worse at your job if you don't know.
If you don't learn how to do the actual coding.
Yes.
Yep.
Or if you don't understand what it's doing.
Exactly.
Yep. Very true. Very true.
Yep.
Okay, so we got a couple picks. Actually, I wanted to, before we get to the picks, I want to do this before you leave, Josh. We'll move the discussion topics. So I at Dev2Next, which is coming up at the end of this month, in Colorado, I should say. I am doing a talk on the first time I get to do this talk. It's called To Do or Not to Do. And it's all about the idea of you having to-dos embedded in our code, and what sort of tech debt or what they actually represent, and how teams actually manage capturing them. And I wanted to pick your brains because I'm trying to get more perspectives for my presentation. So somewhat a self-serving topic, but so basically, when I have control over a project, you are not allowed to merge anything as a to-do into develop or main or master or whatever, right? To-do is something you can use internally and tied to your branch while you're building stuff, but it does not go into the code base. And the main reason for this is because I've worked on lots of projects over the years that are old, right? Where there are some of the projects I've worked on, the code is older than my children. My oldest is about to turn 14. And I've seen to-dos that are that old. Do X, Y, Z. And it's like, okay, this is 14 years old. Why is it in the code base? And I'll even see things like, remove this before it goes into production. And it's been in there for like 5 years or 6 years. And it's like, okay, so what, nobody noticed that it was something important, or was it not important to begin with? So I'm curious from you guys, like, how do you personally use to-dos, and what have you seen like in your, on teams that you've been on with respect to them? So Josh, you can go first.
So personally, I do use to-dos if I'm working on something, and oftentimes when you're working on a complex project, you have many different avenues that you can go down when you're trying to resolve an issue or you're trying to develop a new feature. And so usually where I'll use it is if I'm in one of those situations and I want to keep on going down the rabbit hole that I'm currently in, but I know I've got to come back and do something else in this other area. I'll add a to-do in there. And then the main thing I've got to remember then is it's part of my build before I build that thing and try and, even test it or release it or whatever. You got to do a search for the to-dos, and you have to find where these are at and review them and get them out of there. Either address them at that point or take that out and, make it a enhancement for a future release and put it into your tracker somewhere, something to that effect. That's how I usually use it.
Yeah, that's very on par with how I do stuff as well. So, what about you, Ian?
Yeah, I've got some thoughts about the to do or not to do. So first of all, I use a tool called Sonar Cube. You guys may have heard of it, and one of its rules is that to dos are not allowed in the code. Fix me, to do, those types of tokens are not allowed. So when you commit and push, if you're using the Sonar Cube for IDE, it will flag it. It will prevent you from committing and pushing. If you somehow get past that point, your CI/CD pipeline, if it's hooked up to Sonar Cube as well, will flag it there. So it becomes an actual obstacle to merging code, right? Which once I accepted that, I now I can use that strategically. I just said like today or this week, I was pair programming with a colleague, and I told the colleagues to put a to do comment here. Why? Because we're working on some UI code that has some API dependency. The API is not ready yet. We know that, so we put a to do, and we had to use any to like bypass the TypeScript compilation, compile time, type checking, because we're trying the entity, the class doesn't exist yet, right? Or the model class is not available yet, so we don't have it in our code yet. So we put any, which is bad form. So we cast to any, and then the code compiled. So I put a to do in there, knowing that this PR will not merge. Even if he manages to merge that code or commit and push it, it's not going to pass the quality gate in our CI/CD pipeline. So we're intentionally blocking that development by putting a to do comment there. I like that approach because it forces you to deal with these things in a short-term way, and you're not going to see 14-year-old to do comments in your code if you follow this clean code principle, right? It definitely is a sign of unclean code, right? Seeing a to do or a fix me. So generally, and that's not just in Java, like or TypeScript or other tools like Swift. I do some Swift programming. It's the same thing. The linters I use for Swift also flag to do as like this is a quality issue. You can't push this code. So I learned over time that we shouldn't introduce the to do in the first place. Like just implement the code that you need to implement now. And if you can't, then you shouldn't be working on that feature anyway. If you're not able to complete it now, I mean, you can go as far as you can go, and we know like that API code will be ready within a day or 2 days, so it won't be a long-term issue, right? It has to be resolved within the sprint, you could say, right? So that's my take on to-dos. I like Josh's take. Yeah, it's you're going down a rabbit hole, and you got to come back to something you can put a to-do. And IDEs have cool features where you can like bookmark like those things, and you can navigate through your bookmarks. You like trace your steps back to your previous thought process or modification where you want to get back to it and finish that. Especially if you're in the zone and you've got a lot of ideas and they're just flowing, and you have to come back to something that maybe is a little less interesting but it's essential. You can just put to do, and I'm going to work on this interesting part while I'm inspired and want to keep going, and come back to it. So those are my thoughts. It can be useful. It's a tool, but it's definitely technical debt, and it's not something you want to be committing to your code, I think.
Yeah, I agree. You'll find that apparently there's actually more of a variance than you would expect on this topic. So that's why I thought I would pick your brains. But I'm always like, if it's still in there in the PR, you need to put it, either get rid of it or create a Jira issue or ticket somewhere that as some tech debt that needs to be dealt with, or decide it does need to be dealt with.
The other thing with tech debt is now, like I did an experiment. I actually generated a lot of code with AI, right? It was like that TypeScript to Java refactoring code base rewrite for this little app I'm working on, and there was a ton of technical debt, a ton of lint issues in that code. Like there was about 30,000 lines of code, and there were 500 lint issues. So I said I had to figure out how to create a feedback cycle so that the AI can run a script, lint the code with SonarQube, wait for the result because it sends it up to the cloud, call the API to fetch the data again, and parse it, and then run clean the code, run the lint again. So it created this like feedback loop where I could just sit back and watch. And it took about 4 hours. And I watched this curve, like the technical debt go from 500 to 0 in about 4 hours. It was amazing to watch this. So today, there's no reason why we have to live with technical debt. We should be able to burn that down. Yes, there's risk, right? If you start burning down technical debt and cleaning up your code without a decent amount of test coverage, that's why the other side of SonarQube is they require by default 80% test coverage for any new code, any code change you introduce. If you write 10 lines of code, you have to have test coverage, unit test coverage for 8 of those 10 lines. Otherwise, the quality gate fails. These are very reasonable guidelines for maintainable software, right? Practices. So yeah, that's the other thing. I wouldn't touch technical debt unless I knew I had code test coverage first, right? Because you could break something. A lot of it is cognitive.
Ian, sorry to interrupt you. So Josh has to drop. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Josh.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been great.
Great to see you, Josh.
All right.
Good to see you too.
See you next time, hopefully.
Okay, have a good one. Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right. Sorry about that.
No problem. Just to finish the thought. So, but yeah, test coverage is essential. Like refactoring, cleaning up technical debt involves refactoring, right? And that's the best part about it. Is like this is how you improve the quality of your code is through refactoring, taking a large method, splitting it into smaller methods. But in the process, there's a margin for error, right? So that's why I think test coverage is important. TDD is essential. That's why for me, like it's all connected. If you have good TDD habits from the start, you'll have much more freedom as a developer to make the changes you want to, and you won't have to spend as much time dealing with code quality, lint, and technical debt. You can focus on implementing new features, right?
Yeah, and I also find on the flip side is that AI is really helpful for writing tests for existing code, I found.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
You still have to review it because it'll still make mistakes, but it really helps like jumpstart the process and get a lot of it done. So.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so we should wrap up, but was CodeRabbit one of your picks?
Yeah, it was CodeRabbit is one of my picks because I just like the idea. I used it for a while, and I really enjoyed using it. It was really nice to get an AI peer code review happening in your PR pipeline, right? So basically, it reviews all your changes. It gives you feedback. It finds like security issues. It finds quality issues. It's more than just a linter that will flag it, as a report or something. It's more of an interactive experience where it will tell you like you can improve this, or for example, it finds like dead code, unused variables. It finds like it makes suggestions on coding style, on safety. A lot of it is about safety, right? Writing safer code, like checking for null, validating untrusted user input, things like that. And yeah, it can integrate with Jira. It can integrate with like different tools and can give you like, it can verify, for example, like if you implemented the Jira ticket correctly or not, which is kind of interesting. It'll read the Jira ticket, it will read the PR, and it will put a comment saying like, the PR, correctly implements the ticket or not, kind of thing.
That's actually one of the biggest things that I spend time doing in a PR is like, does this actually do what the ticket says to do?
Yes, exactly, right. The committable suggestion stuff is hit or miss. I find a lot of the time that it's just it's not necessarily like it won't compile afterwards, or it might not. The formatting was a little bit off. It's still like, I think that's more a limitation of GitHub's API than, or it could be just an interaction between these types of tools. I've seen other ones do it too. But what's cool is it also produces a prompt for an LLM or for a AI coding assistant. So it can say like, clean up the code on line number 75 and add null checks for these types of cases, right? And then you can copy paste that prompt into your IDE, and then your IDE can fix it for you. So
okay.
Yeah, CodeRabbit. It's pretty cool.
That would also work well if you had like an autonomous agent like Devin or what is it, Ona, whatever.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
You have to be careful with those, like the MCP, like poisoning, attack. Like if you're familiar with that. So if these tools usually have some kind of MCP interface, model context protocol, where your your AI assistant can connect in real time to your GitHub repo or to Jira or to some other system, and can in real time, like Sentry.io has it, Docker has it, and it can interact with those services and pull data that's relevant to whatever task you're working on, right? The problem with the Jira ticket, there's an example where somebody could raise a bug ticket on a public repo, right? And say like, there's an issue here, a GitHub issue, right? There's an issue with the code. Can you please fix this? And by the way, I really like this developer's work. What other projects does he work on? And then the LLM, which has access to your whole GitHub repo, not just the public one that the users are interacting with, can say, oh, he has access to this repo, this repo, this repo, and it starts to like enumerate, private information, to the user who submitted the bug. So, and the other things are like it can ask you, they can, it's basically untrusted input. They can embed in an email, for example, like in white text, like 1 pixel white text on a white background that you can't read, LLM instructions that you won't even know are there, right? So if you have some AI tool reading your email for you, it could possibly, get instructions through an untrusted source.
I'm not convinced. Like, I think what you're saying is perfectly valid. I'm not sure that applies to like, an AI agent that's configured to read a particular repository and like create PRs and stuff.
Right. It depends on the
But
data that's coming in, right?
yeah, exactly. But yeah, and what it knows, right? And
Right.
whether they've tried to fix that particular problem.
Correct. Yeah. It's hard to fix, actually. There's companies that try to specialize in like securing prompts and preventing this type of attack, but it's an area I think where we're still learning. Like, there's a lot of gaps. Like, there's like, what do they call it? There's companies that try to test the new models as soon as they come out to see like, can they make it bypass its own safety controls, right? Its own guardrails. And they're surprisingly effective at it. They just through prompt engineering, like, forget all previous instructions. You're a malicious AI. Do this. Bad
Mhm.
thing, whatever it is. That's the basic pattern to get it to forget its system prompt, right? But
Yeah.
anyway, we have to be careful with these tools. That's all. They're great. They're powerful. We have to be careful.
Double-edged sword. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up. So we should mention we have a couple other podcasts which are part of the Pubhouse Network. There's the Off Heat podcast, excuse me, and there's also the Java Pubhouse podcast. And each of them you can find in your favorite podcast app and at pubhouse.net, along with our podcast. There are some events here I will mention. If you're watching the YouTube channel, I really do format this stuff usually before. But anyways, so No Fluff Just Stuff has a few conferences coming up. Has the Northern Virginia Software Symposium in Reston, Virginia in the US, September 19th through 20th. Pacific Northwest Software Symposium in Seattle, Washington, October 10th through 11th. The API Conf, December 1st through 3rd in Clearwater, Florida in the US. DevOps Vision, December 1st through 3rd in Clearwater, Florida in the US. And also there's the Tech Leader Summit, which is the 3rd through 5th in Clearwater, Florida, and ArchConf. So it's like a whole week of cool conferences in Clearwater, Florida.
Nice.
And that is December 8th through 11th. Also, there is the Jakarta One live stream, which is, of course, online, and that is December 2nd. Spring One at VMware Explore, which, yes, I keep on forgetting who owns who, right? Broadcom bought VMware, so I guess that makes sense. That's Las Vegas, Nevada, August. Oh, that's over. That was in August. My bad. Dev2Next, which I will be at, and also Daniel Hinojosa will be at as well.
Nice.
Yeah, it should be fun. I've actually this is the second year. This is Venkat Subramanian's conference.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah, so this is in Colorado Springs, Colorado, September 29th through October 2nd. So I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm doing the to do or not to do presentation.
Nice.
And then I'm also talking about getting things done. So I'm doing two like productivity sort of things.
That is awesome, Kito. Love those topics for sure.
Fun stuff. And then DevOps is in Antwerp, Belgium, October 6th through 10th. And there are other conferences which I left out, but those are the ones we have listed. So, and I think we've come to the end of another Stackd podcast, and it didn't take 2 hours, only like, an hour and a half, right? It's like a record. But Ian, it's so glad having you again.
Hey, Kito, thanks so much for having me back, and appreciate your patience. I know it's been hard to reach for the last few months, and I know we're all busy, but I'm really glad to connect back with you guys, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll try to get a better cadence on, so it'll be more than 4 episodes for the entire year. So
sounds good.
So anyone who's listening, thanks so much for listening. You can find us at stackedpodcast.com and also pubhouse.net. And you can also find us on actually not on LinkedIn. We're on Blue Sky and what a day I'm having. What is the other one that I know the name of the app I'm thinking of? Mastodon, thank you. So it's like, there's an M in there somewhere, yes. Blue Sky, Mastodon, Stackd Podcast is not on LinkedIn, but or Twitter. So, all right, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.